When I walk into the octagon and I feel that energy from the crowd and I feel that energy from the fighters, the only person I'm looking at is that fighter at hand, right into their eyes. I'm feeding off their energy at that moment. I take my mind off the fact that millions of people are watching and there's 55,000 whatever in the arena, because at that point, it's the octagon, it's the blue corner fighter, the red corner fighter. My job is to enhance that moment for them, to take them to the next level before they do their thing. Being in the limelight at that moment of being the center of attention in the octagon, of course I enjoy it. I love it. That's my office. And I take great pride in standing on that octagon floor. I was like 6 years old. When I would walk in a room, I would say, "Hi, Dad." And my dad would say, "Son, project your voice. Let them know you're in the room." At the age of 15, he took a job in Los Angeles. I literally surfed every day. And I got very heavy into martial arts. All I did was surf and train every week. My dad, but his main thing was, when somebody comes at you, he said, you punch them right between the eyes as hard as you can. Don't stop. Don't ever stop. Because if not, you're gonna be down. In high school, we had the huge party. You know, the bonfires, the music. One of my good friends runs up, he goes, Buff, you gotta come down, you gotta come down. This guy's beating people up on the beach. There's a guy, he's a lot bigger than me. I went down there and I, leave, you gotta leave. And he said, F you. All of a sudden he comes up to me, I see this big fist like Brock Lesnar coming at my head. Dodged it, nice shot right in the center solar plexus, stole him for a bit, front kicked him. He went down, took me down with him. I took it to him pretty bad. My shirt was ripped apart in pieces. I kind of made the mistake of putting the torn shirt with all the blood on the washer in my parents' house. I come out to breakfast the next morning. Mom's looking at me and there's a look on my dad's face. He goes, son, what happened? You got in a fight, right? I go, yeah. And I told him what happened. He goes, good. You took it to him, you finished it? Good. Let's have breakfast. I have always been a huge boxing fan. My dad, huge boxing fan. And what do we do every Saturday night when possible? We watch boxing. So I was watching boxing 2-3 times a week, and all of a sudden, out comes this very debonair, very handsome, James Bondish looking individual with this amazing voice and saying that phrase that has just become American culture. Let's get ready to... And I go, wow, this guy's awesome. And then all of a sudden, on the screen, it says Michael Buffer. I had every phone book in the United States in my company library, right? I never saw the name Buffer in any phone book. So I'm thinking, who is this guy, Michael Buffer? I'm driving up north with my dad. We're on a road trip. And I said, Dad, do you have any idea who this guy is? He's driving, he turns to me, I think that's your brother. What? I'm 28 years old, what are you talking about? Son, I never told you, during World War II, I was married briefly before your mom. I went overseas. 9 months later, came back, a divorce ensued. And the last time I saw my son who was born was when he was 2.5 years old.
My biological father went off into the Pacific on an aircraft carrier, and I came along, and I ended up with foster parents and had a real Leave It to Beaver life in the suburbs of Philadelphia. I was raised with my foster family's name. which was Huber. And when I went into the Army in 1965, the day I reported, I was told, oh, by the way, your name isn't Huber on your birth certificate, it says Buffer. So from May 5th, 1965 on, I became Michael Buffer.
There's a small venue in LA, the Reseda Country Club, and they were having a boxing event, and we're watching it on TV. And there's Michael. I suggested to Dad, give him a call.
One of the ladies came up and had a piece of paper and said, oh, this gentleman called and asked you to give him a call, and it said Joe Buffer. And I knew exactly who it was. I was 44 years old at the time. It was 1989. And I said, what the heck? This is great. Let me give him a call.
Michael called him back.
I said, this is Michael Buffer. And he's like, oh my God. And so we just set up a dinner and met.
Like a week or so later, my mother, my brother, my dad, and I, we were in a restaurant on Wilshire Boulevard in West LA, and in walks Michael. And it's like, wow.
Boys, I'd like you to meet your brother, Michael. And that was the first time we all laid eyes on each other.
Now remember, I'm a fan, but now I'm saying this is my blood walking in here.
You know, maybe it was just a natural bonding thing or whatever, but we hit it off and became friends right away.
After meeting him, and when I'm on the road traveling, I would stop off in Vegas and, you know, we get together for dinner, I go to the fights. It was great, watching my brother work.
I got to know Bruce real well, and, you know, we would see each other and, you know, go out to clubs occasionally, that sort of thing.
There was one night, it was 1992. Riddick Bowe, Evander Holyfield won at the Thomas & Mack Center, sold out. And I'm watching this, I'm with my family. There's tons of celebrities and sports stars and boxing stars all around the ring. Jack Nicholson's jumping out of his seat. Hulk Hogan's going nuts. When he said, let's get ready to rumble in the arena, it was like a volcano of noise erupting, more than I'd ever heard before. So I went back to my room that night, and I thought, wow, this could be huge. And almost uncontrollably wrote pages of notes. Trademarked the phrase properly, video games, toys, basketball courts, and the football fields, every form of sports and entertainment, and make this 5-word great phrase that only he can say it. And it becomes part of American culture on the tip of your tongue.
I knew I needed an agent or representation.
And I basically had a conversation with Michael, and in so many words, I said, Michael, you know, I want to do this, but I need to be your manager, and I need to be your partner.
We just set up an arrangement and a partnership that he could also go out and promote the trademark. And he had a very good vision for this. One of the first things that Bruce went out and got was a video game deal that earned us a really, really good-sized paycheck. And it all took off from there.
We went on our way, with Michael being Michael Buffer and me being the man behind the Rumble. When Michael and I first started on this journey together, and we had that initial conversation, I mentioned to him times before that I really thought announcing was great. I mean, I would look at Michael announce and I'm thinking, you get to wear the best clothes, you get to travel all over the world, you get to be at your favorite sport, you get to be in with the great warriors. And I thought, what a cool job. It's got that James Bond air to it, and who didn't want to be James Bond when they were a kid? We went to Kellogg, Michigan one time for a kickboxing event. And Michael said, why don't you bring your tuxedo, you know, maybe announce one of the things tonight, you know, cut your teeth on it.
He enjoyed it. And you could see that he had it. He was going to do well if he wanted to stick to it.
Then the UFC came around.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, we go to the second quarter-final match. Introducing first, representing the Korean art of Taekwondo.
I was doing some of these first UFC shows.
UFC 6 was the first UFC that we traveled to. We had dinner that night. We were with the owner, Robert Myers, and they said, Michael, we want you to say if it's not in the octagon, it's not real. And one of the big things that Michael was involved with was WCW wrestling. Something went off in my head at that point, thinking, oh, if he says that, there might be an issue with the WCW wrestling people. So Michael came out, did an incredible job. We're all fascinated by the event that night. The phone rang on Monday, WCW. We had to make a decision. So with WCW here and Michael's love of wrestling, I couldn't sign him for any more UFCs after that.
So then Bruce, he knew who to talk to, and he had a chance to get his foot in the door. And I said, man, go for it.
As soon as I saw the first show in '93, I knew that I had to get involved with this somehow. I called up the owner, And I said, you need a buffer in the octagon. I did not want to be like every other announcer, and I didn't want to be looked at as the guy that wants to be Michael Buffer.
I thought Buffer had the potential to be very, very good. I liked his voice, I liked his energy.
It's time to begin!
I was starting off shows saying, it's time to begin the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Dana said, I don't want you to say that anymore.
His intro would be 35 minutes if you let him do his thing. He would drag it out a little long.
And then I just started trying It's Time. This is the moment you've all been waiting for. It's time. I realized people were really getting into it because when I walk around, they're yelling, it's time at me. Something is catching on. I remember when I was in Brazil, there were 20,000 people sold out.
Live from the sold-out HSBC Arena in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. It's time!
And I did my thing, and I walked out, and the cut man said, Buff, did you hear that? I go, hear what? He goes, everybody said it's time with you. Roughly 20,000 Portuguese-speaking individuals saying with me, as long as I hold it, and then stopping.
It's time!
And that's when I knew It's Time was taking legs.
It is fucking awesome.
Don't sue me, Buff. Don't fucking sue me, Buff. It's Time is unbelievable. It's the perfect phrase.
Gives you goosebumps, and by the time the ref says, are you ready, and you're ready, you're just fucking going crazy for this fight to start.
He welcomes the cameras, right? I mean, we're sitting here talking about Bruce Buffer, so he's gonna love this, right? There's no hiding behind a microphone, right? He is underneath the Jumbotron, all eyes on him, and his act is such that it's high energy required, especially for the big shows.
Johnny Bones Jones!
This tailor cuts the lining out of his suit pants around the knee area so that Bruce can bend down and squat. Even his cards, right? He turns the thing into like a ninja star. And as soon as he's done with it, chucks it to the side. If it were up to him, he would be doing 360s, screaming bloody murder until he's 80 years old.
Time!
Buffer will die before he misses an event. If that guy was on his deathbed with pneumonia and we had a fight on Saturday, he's showing up.
So the physicality of the, buffer spin, the buffer moves, like you injured yourself. What happened?
There was the biggest event the UFC had ever had. It was in Toronto, Canada, 55,000 people. George St. Pierre fighting Jake Shields in the main event. We're all amped for this. This is the biggest show ever. Get in the octagon that night, treat the show as normal, go through the main event, did the turns, go into George St. Pierre's corner, do my announcement, go, George, rush! And George always lunges out when I say that. And I always bunny hop back like a foot and a half or so. My knee explodes. I feel that cracking noise, and I got the biggest Pierre introduction ever out because it was an introduction of pain. George, rush, St. Pierre! And then you see me hop out of the octagon on one leg. Luckily, it was the last fight of the night. I got back up there, I announced the winner. Bad news was I severed my ACL.
You know, Buff will say tongue-in-cheek, like, Johnny, I'm willing to die in there. And it's like, Buff, you're not fighting tonight. Like, you're not willing to die in there. But in terms of the way he performs his act, he is absolutely willing to croak.
Let's talk about the elevator fight.
Okay. All right. We had an Ultimate Fighter TV show. We were staying at the Hard Rock Hotel, and we just got done doing the show. I went up to Mike Goldberg's room, and Frank was in there, and we're friends.
Mike Goldberg and I were up in his room. After, I'm wearing flip-flops, shorts, and a t-shirt. I'm going home because I was living in Vegas at the time.
We decided to go out. We're gonna go out have a little dinner, or go out to a club. And when we get to the elevator, doors open, and there's Dana White and his security man. Frank walks in.
All I know is there's 5 grown-ass men in an elevator.
Frank Trigg at the time was a ranked fighter.
I was having a conversation with Dana. He's about to start talking a little bit of money. What did Bruce do? He mentioned something about Dana's watch or something.
Okay, I love watches. And Dana had this really cool watch band on. And I go, Dana, what a cool watch.
You're talking to your boss about a pay raise. And then somebody else comes in and starts talking about their cufflinks or their tie. Right in the moment when he's like, I might have X amount of bleh. And then, oh my gosh, your cufflinks are amazing. Shut up, let me finish my conversation, then talk to him about his cufflinks. I mean, I don't care. But your conversation comes after mine.
All of a sudden, I get a ridge hand shot to my neck.
Karate chopped him in the throat. And Trigg said, don't fucking talk while I'm talking. I was like, oh shit.
And I turn around, hey, Frank, you hit me. Why the F did you hit me? He said the wrong thing to me. He said, well, what are you gonna do about it?
Buffer blasted him. And it was on.
I just reacted and just went pop, pop. You know, I punched him twice.
They started throwing punches at each other. I was like, holy shit, this is happening right now. I stepped back into the corner of the elevator and I just fucking watched and let it go.
In MMA, everyone's pretty physical. And Bruce is known as a boxer, so he can handle this.
Frank came back at me, hit me harder. I gotta hit him back harder. And it was on. Boom, 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 right? 10 floors, what does that take? 15, 20, 25 seconds? All 10 floors. Just kept going and going and going to the point that he actually threw a knee up and kneed one of my friends, which I started to feel. Dana was against the elevator. I don't remember seeing him. I'm too busy focusing on what's going on, and adrenaline's pumping. And that's when the doors started to open, and I just throw my arms in the air, and I go, Frank, we're done, we're done, we're done.
They stopped fighting as soon as the elevator doors opened at the lobby.
And I look down, and there's blood up and down my shirt.
Buffer's hand was sliced open from Frank Trigg's watch.
And my thumb is peeled back. You can see the bone in my thumb.
Those two shook hands, apologized to each other, and Buffer went to the hospital to go get stitches.
7 stitches or so, $500, tetanus shot, the whole 9 yards, bandage on the thumb.
And I literally walked away and I went, holy shit, that just happened.
2 days later, a fighter from the UFC named Mikey Burnett walked up to me. And he goes, hey, Bruce, I heard you took it to Trigg. And I go, Mikey, who'd you hear that from? I haven't told anybody. He goes, Dana's telling everybody. I guess one of the things I really kind of liked about it is that Dana saw that he doesn't have a wimp announcing his fighters in the octagon.
This I do know for sure. It's the one lesson I learned in the elevator. Never chop a ring announcer in the throat. That's how he makes his millions of dollars is with his voice, and I hacked him at it. It's kind of funny, but should have done it. Absolutely, in hindsight, probably was a bad idea, but you know, whatever. I think I saw him in Hawaii shortly after that, and we went and had a drink at the after party in Hawaii.
What we're talking about is a scuffle between 2 friends that went wrong, and people that are 2 friends today. In the old days, I could have a good fight and have a beer with you afterwards. And that's the way I like it. My dad taught me one thing in life. He goes, if you're gonna do something, be the best at it, be the best. He instilled this in me. I started surfing in 1972. Surfing to me is my favorite sport of all sports. It's you against the wave. It's you against Mother Nature. You have to respect Mother Nature, and you have to attack it at the same time. A one-on-one endeavor for me, whether it's standing across and sparring from somebody, whether it's surfing a wave, it all added to my character. Every time I walk in the octagon, to me, it's my very first night. I have to prove to myself, to the fans, and especially to the great warriors that I'm announcing, that I deserve to be in this octagon and share it with them. It's really hard to explain, but it's the greatest feeling in the world. And I would get up every day back in the early 80s searching to get that high, to get the feeling of being on a big wave. And whenever you think about, well, why is that so great? Because it is great. And whether the waves were small or the waves were big or the waves are huge, the bottom line is our attitude every day was get in the water. And that's what we did.